Hello from the Bringing Up Business podcast, where we talk about business and parenting. I'm your host, Kaila Sachse, owner of a creative and marketing agency called Umari Digital that specializes in websites, marketing campaigns, and branding to help small businesses grow. I am also the mom of a very energetic 2-year-old. So if you're watching this on YouTube and I look tired, please don't tell me that I look tired. Just know that I am a little tired. However, I have plenty of energy to chat with today's guest, Meg Dalessandro, who is a content producer, creative director, and self-described creative Swiss Army knife. Meg spent most of her career trying to figure out what balance actually looks like and whether it really even exists. For a long time, she believed the next title or promotion would finally bring the security to start living the rest of her life. Traveling more, getting married, maybe even starting a family one day. As the kid of a single mom, she was determined to build a steady foundation no matter what. But after she broke her ankle in 3 places and got laid off in the same season, she realized that no amount of ambition or planning could protect her from uncertainty. That pause forced her to rethink everything. She started her own business, learned to trust her instincts, and decided it was possible to build a career and personal life side by side without feeling like she was failing at one or the other. Today, she has found that sweet spot at Wistia, where the culture actually backs up its promises. People really do take time off, and parents and non-parents are supported in a way that feels genuine, not performative. Outside of work, Meg is usually roller skating at the skate park, leaving voicemail newsletters about creativity, or taking too many photos of her cat, Noodle. She lives in Oregon with her husband, James, and is still learning how to let work be just one part of a bigger, more interesting life. Today, we're going to dive into what a healthy work culture looks like so that if you, dear listener, are an employer, you can provide better support for your team. Meg, I'm excited to chat with you today, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to have a chat with you too.
Yeah. So before we get into it, I need to know, what is a voicemail newsletter?
Yeah. So it's kind of like voicemail newsletter podcast. I post monthly on Substack. And so with Substack, you have kind of like a monthly, you can do like a newsletter blog. And so I was doing that. But then I have come from the world of podcasting and has always been really drawn towards the audio format. And so as a content producer, podcast producer, I started this by thinking, what if I started a publication with a voice note and then let that feed into the newsletter and kind of design something that could fit both use cases. That way it could kind of feed off of my creative motivation in the moment with whatever voice note is kind of popping in my brain, and also keep myself on like a monthly kind of scheduling, post-scheduling schedule. That doesn't make much sense. But
No. I get that. It's like, I have a hard time like staying on a schedule of pushing out content. And so it's cool that you found something that holds you accountable. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. Okay, like, is it a podcast or is it like, what format does it live in?
why not both? So it does live on wherever you can find your podcast, so like Apple or Spotify or YouTube or things like that. But it is mainly on Substack, where I post both the audio file and the like transcript, which is like the blog post. But that, if you subscribe, gets sent to your email. So it's kind of like a triple whammy of, you can see it on the blog, on the website, you can hear it in your ears in your podcasting app, or you can get it in your inbox.
Oh, cool. Okay. Always learning, always growing.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so walk us through your journey. You started at a company called Privy, and then what?
It's funny because I originally went to art school at MassArt in Boston, and I studied graphic design and user experience design. And so getting out of college, I was really looking for that entry-level design position, which is where I landed at Privy as a marketing designer. And at the time, Privy was an e-commerce like marketing software with probably about 10-ish employees. So about 7 or so developers, the founder, and one marketing person who was my boss and me. And so it was really cool to join a team when it was at such a small stage and then also be with them for a few years and watch them grow because I really got to learn about marketing through osmosis. Like I remember vividly my boss Josh at the time, he was talking about the marketing funnel and I was just looking at him and he's like, "You look confused." And I'm like, "What is this funnel everyone keeps talking about? Like, what is this funnel? And like, what does that have to do with anything that I have to design?" And so I think it was that conversation and me also kind of asking, like, why are we making National Pancake Day graphics? Like, what is this doing for the business? I think that's where my marketing and design brain kind of started to sprout. And so I was working at Privy for a few years. From there, I actually went to a venture capital firm called OpenView, which is also in Boston. And there, I joined their marketing team to grow their thought leadership program. So, like their lead investors would have like video series or podcasts or things all over on LinkedIn or YouTube. And by building their personal brands, we build the trust, and then that way, founders, when we're reaching out to them for funding, they trust us more. They want to talk to us. They know that we're real people. And it was really fun to be in a new space that was really kind of buttoned up and really, I got the opportunity to make things more fun and push the boundaries a bit about what does VC content look like. But in both of those interactions, I learned so much, but it was also so fast and so like all encompassing. And I think that was partially just because of where where I was earlier in my career. I was in my early 20s and I was just prone to burnout. Like I was just basically like, I want to keep working as hard and fast as I can to build that stability for myself and for my future. Cause like I'm gonna get it no matter what. Like I have like been motivated by not even like spite, just like pure like I'm gonna do it whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And I think that mindset made me, burn out a lot and kind of get in a cycle of burnout, which it brought me to really great places because I made really great work, but it wasn't super sustainable. And so it was interesting after being at OpenView for a few years. After I think 3 years, I ended up breaking my ankle, like exploding it in all the different ways. Took some medical leave and really had to was forced to take a pause because I couldn't do my work. I couldn't walk. It took like 6 months to learn how to walk again. Like this whole journey. And then I got back, and then the firm decided that it was like winding down. So nothing to do with like my performance or anyone's performance necessarily. It was like some sort of like logistical thing where they were like, we just have to shut down the firm and we're going to give everyone severance. And so that way we can support you in whatever you do next. And so it was like, I finally got through this journey of this really hard, really challenging time, both mentally, physically, going through this injury, coming back to work, and then having, feeling like, what am I doing now? It was just like another sign from like the universe being like, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I was already thinking about like, "All right, like, I'm gonna get back to work, and I'm gonna work on X, Y, and Z, and then I'm gonna reach out to this person and do that, and I'm gonna write this," and I was already feeling myself, like, ramp back up into that unrealistic expectation of myself,
Mm-hmm.
even before I got back to work, and so I think, yeah, going through both of those at the same time was definitely challenging, but it was kind of what I needed to force myself into thinking, "What do I really want? What does balance really look like?" And especially at this point, I was engaged, and so I was thinking about that next stage of life. Okay, I'm getting married in the next year, and eventually my husband and I want a family. Like, what sort of career and job will set me up, not only financially, but also for like the life I actually truly want to live. Like,
Yeah.
am I gonna be on my deathbed wishing that I sent more emails? Like, no. Or
Mm-hmm.
like that I made another podcast episode? Like, no.
Yeah.
So just about what is that true value. And I feel before earlier in my career, the value was so much more on money and the title. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
so like dead set, like I need to have a director title before I'm married and have kids. Cause like, you always hear about, women like, oh, like your career takes a swan dive once you have
Mm-hmm.
children time away. And like, while that's coming from a great place, it was also coming from like an unrealistic expectation of like, I need to accomplish everything in this super short time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm never going to get to it. And that's just unrealistic. And I think that's maybe
Yes.
just me in my 20s, just thinking I have to get everything done before a certain time. And I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of people to that.
Oh
Um,
yeah. It's not it I think it's also like important to consider too how culturally we are raised with parents who were able to afford homes in their 20s. Not saying that people can't afford that now, but it's much more challenging. I mean,
Yes.
that salary to home price ratio is just so much different now. And
Totally.
also the expectations, especially on gender roles for parenting, raising a family, typically, the age old story, like man goes out and hunts for the money and the woman stays home and raises her babies. And that's just how everybody accepted society as it used to be. And now, so we were raised with this idea that like, okay, we can do the things, we can buy the house and then we can have the babies and like everything's picture perfect. There are all these milestones to hit. But this day and age is just, it's different. It's just different. And so I can understand and empathize how you were so hard on yourself and wanting the title and wanting that bigger salary. And it also doesn't help too that you and I are the same. We are both extremely motivated. We just want to take over whatever it is that we set our minds to. And so I get it. So I just want to like extend some empathy to you in that. And also any listeners who can relate, which I'm sure there are a ton. We are all in this boat together. Like you're not alone.
Thanks. I really appreciate you saying that because I sometimes do feel like people say, "Oh, you're so ambitious." Even at my wedding, like the speeches from like the best man and like maid of honor, like, everyone's like, "Oh, Megan and her ambition and all this and everything." And it almost made me reflect on like, is that a bad thing? Like, is
Mm,
it too much?
mm.
Like, is it like almost ambitious to a fault? Or like, is it like it kind of made me rethink about, like, how I view ambition, and, like, I think it's still great that I love that people think I'm ambitious because they
Yeah.
know I'm the lady that can get stuff done,
Yeah.
but I think my relationship to the idea of being driven and ambitious has changed a bit, like, I think I am always trying to now find the balance not just with ambition, but with rest,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, true rest, not like, "Oh, I'm resting while I do something that's also productive,"
Yeah.
because I'm also very guilty of that. Of, like, my rest also needs to be productive, though.
Yep. I felt that. Yep. I struggle with that too. If anybody out there has an answer to how to do that, or do you have an answer for how to truly rest and get off the grid, like please share because I'm still struggling on how to do that.
Ugh. I mean, it's so hard. I really struggle. I'm a person who will like I'll be like, "I need a break from my big screen, my computer. So, like, let me go on my little screen while I watch a different screen and
Yes.
watch TV and also be on my phone." And then it's like, sometimes, that can be really enough to, like, disconnect, and it's, like, kinda good to be, like, semi-absorbing all these different screens and, like, you're mellowing out. But other times, it's like you don't realize the toll that, like, that's taking by, like, being on your phone and watching TV and, like, listening to something and how multitasking, even though you might be trying to do it as a way to relax, it might actually be causing your brain to be spinning when you're not even, like, realizing it. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've experienced that.
Yeah. And then you add in a toddler who's like, Mom, Mama, Mama, like wanting all the things. And it's just overload. Like the inputs, my inputs can get fried by the end of the day. And, I realize, by the end of the day, if I am that fried and I find myself like starting to get reactive, and the best thing for me is to just like take a beat, go step away into another room and like leave the phone, leave all the devices and just go rest. Maybe I go out to my garden and go water some plants for 10 minutes or however much I can
Yeah.
muster, just to like recharge.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would say for me, change of scenery and yeah, doing something physical is so big. Like that's honestly my relationship with roller skating is largely trying to build in that like very present minded like relaxation time. Even though it's like a physical activity, like it feels so relaxing to me
Oh,
because
yeah.
I have to be focused. Otherwise like I can get hurt or, like there's so many things that can happen. So it like forces me to be super present and it also forces me to change my scenery. And when I hurt my ankle, I realized that like that was my biggest, uh, probably like coping mechanism that I had for rest. And then once I couldn't use that, like, coping mechanism for rest, I started grasping around like, oh my gosh, like how do I actually rest when I can't like move my body? And
Yeah.
so I actually got really into like collaging and coloring. Like I would try to like just like work with like physical media because in all of the content production, design, and video stuff I do is mostly all digital. And so I'm usually on a screen. I'm usually like
Mhm.
hunched over my computer.
Yeah.
And I just find that working with physical media and like putting the phone away, maybe I have music on, maybe I don't, but I think like literally just coloring, like I have like a Hello Kitty coloring book my friend gave me that I have been like jamming on lately. So if I get into that mode of where I'm like, I kind of want to watch something, but not really, but I want my hands to be busy and I don't want to go on my phone because that feels like an energy suck, I'll sit down and I'll color while I watch TV because it kind of gives me that like fidgety fix of like doing something, but like it feels productive, but it's like not. It's like actually restful. So I feel like people have always like I don't know, coloring books are not anything new, but I have like come back around to them, and I've that's been like my latest hack recently for like okay, I don't want to be on my phone, but I do want something else to do while I'm like watching something.
That's a fantastic idea. One of my go-tos, this is an old go-to that I want to reamp into my life, is gouache paint. So gouache is a water-based paint, and that would be safe around my little one because if he were to, I don't know, get it on him, it's not toxic. And also if it spills
Yeah.
on something, I'm sure I could wipe it up. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure that could be
Yeah.
clean. That's a great. Oh, I'm so inspired now. I want to gouache paint while I'm watching TV or whatever. Yeah.
Let's say another good thing that if you're into collaging, but you're like I just need all the things because I'm a person very much I need my like if it's I can see it, it's accessible and I'll do it. But if it's like a craft that I put in my closet, I'm like never gonna see it or do
Mm-hmm.
it again.
Yep.
But I've been doing these monthly like vision board collages where it's like the beginning of every month I sit down and I think about like what do I like want to like get out of this next month? I want to like eat my favorite foods or like go do this or that. And so I've been doing them this year. It's the first year I've done them, but it's like I have like
I want to see what.
January is
Oh,
like went to Hawaii and I bought like a lamp for my bedroom and like so it's like things that are not like sometimes they're really exciting like going to Hawaii, but other times they're just like I wanna like hang out with my cat and play video games and like go on a fun date.
I love
Uh
that. How
yeah. So at least
fun.
these so I have all of them. So I'll show you I have like a bunch of them. This is my July one, which is very fun. Going to a friend's
Fun.
child's like first birthday party, thinking
Oh,
about houses and all this fun stuff, going to the beach, eating peaches, all the good stuff. Um,
that
and
is
so what I
so
found
fun.
was thanks. What I found was so made that like accessible was they have these books now that are literally just collage books. You literally just have like this one's kind of a weird one, but I
For
have like
everybody listening right now, Meg is flipping through a book of just like full page imagery, and
yes.
it looks like a bunch of like little graphics or full on backgrounds that you can cut from. Oh, that is so fun.
So each book has just like this one, I think, is just things to cut out and collage. So there's not really much themed, but you can say, like, oh, I'm looking for vintage signs. And it's a whole sheet of vintage signs that are all cut out so that it's easier to cut them out. Or there's flowers or animals. Or so when I go in to make these, it's not like I feel like I'm starting from scratch. It kind of just feels, I don't know, it just makes it so much more accessible. And I feel like the more you can make those like restful things seem accessible and absolutely restful, like, not, like, sneakily productive, that's, like, where I find the, like, sweet spot of true rest and balance.
That is so inspiring. Okay, Meg, thank you. Okay, that's the end of our show. We've learned how
Yeah.
to rest, everybody. No, I'm just kidding. We have more to dive into.
Okay, granted,
You
I don't have children, so that's also a whole other I don't have children yet, so that's a whole other thing, it's like I have, different time schedule as other people with other family and
Yeah.
obligation. That's
Yeah.
something just highlight as well.
Yeah, no, and that's an important point. So if there are any parents listening who are like, okay, hold on a second, I don't have time to collage, I don't have time
Yeah.
to gouache paint. I get it. I completely understand. I will say that the first two, maybe like year and a half of my kid's life was absolute. Just I was consumed with survival.
Mhm.
It's like either feeding him, feeding me, making sure the house isn't just completely on fire, like dishes aren't piled up and all that, which they still are. They are forever piled up at this point. But learning to be okay with that.
Yes.
But once like that beginning stage of getting through the newborn infancy, you kind of get your bearings as a parent and start to fall into some rhythms, and rest does become possible. And in order to make it happen, you have to prioritize it. You just have to. And I found that the easiest way to prioritize it, there are two different ways. If you have a partner, have your partner watch your kid while you alone go rest. Or if you don't have the luxury of a partner, try to implement your kid, or try to involve your kid in with the activity. So for example, my kid and I, he loves to garden. I love to garden. And so what do? We go out into the backyard every evening, and that's what we do. It's a full 30-minute ritual. I give him the hose. Yes, everything gets muddy. He is covered in mud, but guess what? It washes off. I just spray him down before we get back inside, and then I toss all of his stuff in the washer. It's fine. He'll be okay. But that seems to be the key, is to either involving my kid or asking somebody to watch my kid while I have my own pure alone time. And then when I have that pure alone time, it's like what Meg says, go do something that's actually restful and it will actually restore your soul. For me, it's getting down the street to a Pilates class, a bar class, a yoga class, something like that. It's moving my body too. That's what makes me feel connected. But yeah, and part of that is experimentation too, and figuring out what works for you. So I don't know. That's just my tips and tricks for younger parents. Take it easy on yourself. Do know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. The infancy stage will pass, and sure, you'll have time for yourself soon. But yeah. Anyway, okay, so let's move on. So you were talking about, you'd broken your ankle, you got laid off. Then what? How did you manage that? Because I can only imagine at that point in your life, that must have been so overwhelming and disheartening for somebody who is so ambitious. How did you reinvent yourself? What did you do?
Yeah, it's a good point of reinvention, is because that's truly what it felt like. Leading up to that year, I was doing 365 days of roller skating, and so I was on day 222 when I hurt my ankle. And
So
it was
close.
such a bummer because it was oh my gosh, it was I remember sitting in the hospital bed, in a lot of pain, but really just the waves of true sadness and disappointment coming over me of oh, I'm not gonna reach this goal I set for myself. Well, I had a vacation planned. I was that's not happening because I can't walk or do anything. So it was that. And then it was also oh my gosh, now I have all this stuff at work. Am I gonna be able to work? If I can't work, am I gonna lose my job? It's just it all kind of escalates from there. And so it was really tough. And I think I eventually I first, had my surgery because I had to have urgent surgery after it all happened. I dislocated and broke everything. So they were girl, you need help. And so thankfully the surgeons did a fantastic job and everything, but it was still 2 months before I could start physical therapy. And so I had to just be on the couch, unable to move for that long, which was truly the hardest time. Cause it just felt no progress. And as someone who's ambitious, progress is how I equated my worth and value. And so I felt really awful about myself, and also just feeling I was asking so much of my partner because he was doing everything from the groceries to the laundry to the cleaning to literally helping me shower and helping me do everything, and also trying to keep my spirits up because he knows how down I am. And so he was really holding down the fort for both of us. And I am just so appreciative to have had a partner that could have helped me through that. And so once it became clear, I tried to go back to work, and it was my mental state was just getting so much worse. And I had to prioritize my mental health and realize I am more depressed than I've ever experienced in my life. It felt I was wearing a weighted blanket on my brain, true physical depression. And I've battled depression in my past and anxiety and things like that. But this was truly an all encompassing overwhelm. And that's where I had to make the decision of I need to take medical leave and actually prioritize getting extensive physical and mental therapy and help myself through this. And so that's what I did. And I was so lucky that I worked for a company that legally they have to let me take the medical leave, but they also emotionally were very understanding, very there for me. Didn't make me feel judged or anything like that. And or extra fragile, like no one was treating me like walking on eggshells or anything. It was just very much like, nope, Meg's going to take this time off to heal and we're going to talk to her when she gets back. Just like let her be while she works on this and then we'll get back to her. So I felt really grateful for that at least. So
Yeah.
honestly, once I made that decision, it was a huge weight off my shoulders because I was battling that for the first few weeks of being injured. And then once I had all this time, because I wasn't working and I had, I was in a lot of physical therapy and like talk therapy, but I had all this time. And so then that's what really let me reflect and be like, all right, like, let's say I didn't work at OpenView anymore. Like, what would I do with this time? So that's when I started thinking about like, what would my next role be? Like, I'd always thought about it just being full time. And so when I got when I got laid off, I came back from my injury, got laid off, and then I was thinking about what's next. I was applying to places left and right and just hearing crickets, like just nothing, like 50 plus applications, hearing nothing.
Oof.
But then I'm also like, hearing like a lot of people are reaching out to me on LinkedIn, asking me for freelance work. And I was so hesitant because I was like, oh, I don't want to do the business thing. Like, I just don't think I can do it. Like, I just, like, as ambitious as I am, I was just like, the whole money piece of it just seemed so overwhelming and so like I was just going to mess it up somehow. And eventually I kept applying to places and applying to places. And I started taking on freelance work here and there for people I knew that would treat me really well. Like people who I knew like could kind of handhold me through this like first big freelance endeavor. Cause I'd freelanced in the past, but didn't make it like an official LLC business or anything.
Yeah.
And so eventually I was doing that for a few different clients, writing my newsletter. And I actually landed my first retainer client through my newsletter by doing like a guest post on their newsletter and then swapping. So that was kind of like one of my first aha moments of like, hey, wait, like the stuff that I'm doing on my own is actually starting to resonate with other people on that in services that I could provide. And then the person that I collabed with, was like, oh, would you ever come work for us in our agency as a creative like specialist or something? And I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So I started doing that. And then once I got dip my toes there, it was like pretty soon after I was getting other retainer clients, other kind of one-off projects. And I was like, all right, now that I have like pretty much a full plate, I should think about making this a real business. And so then I formed my LLC here in Oregon, officially made my website, did all of that. And then, yeah, I was freelancing from beginning of 2024 through the end. And it was actually in, I think, near the end, like fall of 2024. I saw there was a Wistia job posting for video producer. One of my mentors, Jay Akunzo, he sent it to me saying like, "Oh, I thought of you for this," and that alone like made my day, like made my
Mm.
week. I was so like, "Oh my gosh, you think I could be good enough to work there?" Like
Mm.
their videos are so good, and like I had always looked up to them for both their like thought leadership and just like brand strategy, but also just like the pure like aesthetic and like visual quality of like everything they make is just stunning and also so differentiated because it has like true like human personality behind it.
Yeah.
And I've always found that to be really cool for like business to business marketing. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that's a dream. And so I wrote this cover letter that was basically like, dear stranger, thank you so much for making my entire week by posting this job listing. Like, and then I like had my little spiel like who I was and all this stuff. And it was just like, thank you for making my week, even if you didn't know it by like, posting this. Like
Hmm.
it like made my week think that I could even possibly work here. And so they got back to me and they were like, oh, well, we actually need someone in real life, like near the Boston area to be able to come into the office to film. So this is not going to be like a good
Mm.
fit. And so I was like,
Mm.
oh, bummer. But like, okay. But then they're like, oh, we're actually thinking about scoping this other role that we think you'd be a really good fit for. And so I was like, okay, let me know. And they're like, all right, it's going to be a couple of months because we're figuring stuff out. And I was like, perfect. I'm getting married and going on my honeymoon. So peace out.
Yeah.
And so that was nice. I like had some more clients during that time. And then by the end in like November, December, they reached out to me with the role. I did the interviews, got the role, and then ended up being full time at Wistia since 2025. And it's been so fun. I feel very surreal to work somewhere where people genuinely like truly enjoy not only their jobs, but like everyone they work with. Like
Mm.
I have had meetings with people who have been there for 5, 10 plus years, and like they couldn't say anything greater about the company and how much they've been supported through like different phases of their lives. And I've just noticed that a lot of the people on the team are younger parents or just like younger folks, or like, older folks with children. And it's just so nice because it's truly the first company that I feel like has just gone above and beyond to truly understand the parenting experience and provide support in that way.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like a happy accident. Like I truthfully probably would have taken this job because I've been such a fangirl of Wistia for so long that I probably would have taken it even if they didn't have this like amazing parental leave policy and support.
Yeah.
But then joining and then finding that out, it was like, yes, it's exactly what I like was hoping for, was like some sort of environment that would actually be like very supportive for all seasons of life and all types of people. And yeah, I just am like so happy and still feels very surreal that I
That's so
get to say
beautiful.
my work.
That's so beautiful. What are some of the practical policies that they have that support their culture? You know, you mentioned a parental leave policy. What does that look like? Are there any other benefits that they offer? What does it all look like?
Yeah. So at a glance, it's, I believe, 4 months of parental leave. So for the birthing or non-birthing parent, and then you can decide how you want to split that up. So you can, do the first 4 months all together, or maybe do 2.5, 3, and then some later once like potentially the other, maybe you're doing some sort of situation where one partner is going back to work before the other, or maybe before you're going to daycare or something like that. So it's really flexible, which I found to be, that just seems to be really considerate. Just based on like, I don't know, everyone's different. Everyone has different like work life balance and styles of parenting and everything. So I just feel like it's so nice to have that flexibility.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. And then the other thing that I really love is they have a Slack channel, and it's just like parenting. And it just seems like I'm not included in it because I don't have a child yet. They were like, you can definitely like observe if you want, but I was like, I'm good for right now. But eventually, hope to join that channel. But it just seems like people there really have like useful discussions around like, oh, like, did you notice like this was closed? Or like a lot of people live around a certain area. So it'll be around like different closings or things like that. Or did you see this story? Or just getting like a sounding board of other parents. Or if they're planning, like we had a giant offsite in Denver, Colorado, so that we all, as a remote company, could all come together and hang out for a few days. And so as they were planning that, I know that they reached out to the parenting Slack channel to get a lot of feedback on like, will your families be joining this? Like, could we provide other accommodations or recommendations for them to do things while you're doing, the work stuff, and just like really considering like not just the person that works there, but everyone who supports the person that works there, like their whole family, which I find so kind. And even just like my very first meeting that I had, like my first day was with an HR person, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, like I have my daughter here with me. Like she might like pop in to the video every once in a while because of whatever." And it was just like so casual, so nice. And it wasn't like, it was just, she felt so comfortable being able to do that. And it just gave me the sense of ease of like, okay, it's not like people have to like hide their children here or act like their lives aren't impacted by these like little beings that make up so much of their like life. And it just made it seem like parenting is possible, because kind of like we were saying before, like parenting back when it was our parents' generation seemed more possible because you could buy the house, you could do the things, you could hit all the milestones, where I feel like a lot of people nowadays, even if they want children, it's really hard to make it seem possible,
Yep.
to give them the support. And I struggled with that for a long time because because of my growing up single mom, like a really tough financial situation, I just never thought I would get that for myself. I've always like wanted a family and everything, but I just never thought it could truly happen for me, that like I would actually be in a place where I could support not only me, but like another person or multiple people. So it feels very surreal. Even I feel very lucky to be able to do that because there's so many people that don't. And it's really hard because it's a systematic issue that I don't know the answer to.
Yeah, yeah. No, we have an episode with Nikolai Paquin. He's a freelance designer, super talented. And he dives into that, how he and his partner are struggling with planning for the future because they want kids, they want the house, they want all the things. And the expenses of life are making that feel utterly impossible. And so it's just, yeah, it's so challenging. And now a quick message from our sponsor. Looking to take your brand, team, or event to the next level with custom gear that stands out? Virtue Screen Printing is your go-to one-stop shop for high-quality custom apparel and accessories. Whether you're launching a clothing line, gearing up your staff, or repping your squad, Virtue brings your vision to life with custom hats, shirts, hoodies, socks, beanies, and more. We're not talking cookie cutter merch. This is premium, fully customizable gear made with care and attention to detail. What makes Virtue different? It's simple. Low minimums, fast turnaround, hands-on customer service, and a passion for helping brands look good. From bold designs to subtle branding, they do it all, and they do it right. Visit virtuemfg.com to get started, or hit them up directly for a custom quote. That's virtuemfg.com, where vision meets craftsmanship. virtuemfg.com. Thank you for staying with us, and back to the show. Okay, so zooming back over to Wistia, how big is the company? It sounds like they don't get caught up on people having kids, and so it's okay to be full on human beings. So back to like original question, like how many people are at the company, and how do you think they're supporting the family culture behind the scenes?
Yeah. So the company is about, I believe we're between 160 to 180 people. So less than 200 people, but still large. And we're spread out across the United States. And so I think the main way that they're supporting the parents at Wistia and even non-parents is that they actually have like a parent advisory board. So they actually have like a group of, volunteers like from the company who not only like manage that like parenting kind of Slack channel, but also will like meet and kind of get like a gut check of like how people are feeling. Do we feel like people are feeling supported? Is there more that we could be doing? Are the things we were doing that we were doing actually still useful, or should we change them? And so that was, again, the first time I've ever heard of a company having anything like that. And it was just really eye-opening because it just really like inspired and invigorated me. Cause like you were just saying, it makes it seem possible.
Yeah.
And it's also like we have like every week, or at least like every week, the marketing team has like a recurring Slack thing. It's like, hey, like it's like three things. Like, what's a highlight from your weekend? Two, what do you work on this week? And three, like, are you going to be out at all? And it's like a prompt that you can like choose to say, like, you don't have to reply to it. It's just like, if you want, you can. And like every week it's so nice because people will post like, a highlight from their kids' like dance recital or like something. And it's just like so nice that people feel also very comfortable like sharing their families with each other. And like everyone kind of like gets to know the personalities of like everyone's kids and families and like pets and everything. And it just like makes everyone feel also very much appreciated. Because even as someone who doesn't have children, and I have a cat who I love very much, but it doesn't like I haven't felt like the like parent non-parent divide either, because I feel like that's another kind of thing you can kind of fall into, whereas like people who don't either want children ever or don't have them now feel like, oh, like this company is only a time accommodating if it's for children. And which is like, that's they are. It's like at the same time, we should be respecting everyone's time and everyone's family, whether their family is just them and their roommates,
Yes.
or their cat, or just them. Like we should be respecting everyone's time.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I feel like there's so much pressure, especially on women who are just getting bombarded with this messaging that if we don't have children, we're not providing value for some silly reason. It's ridiculous, and that's just the stigma that comes with being childless. And so I'm so glad that you bring that up, because as an employer, it's not only our duty to lift up and support people with families, but also to lift up and support everybody who may not want a family or who isn't in that realm. It's all okay. It's all okay, because at the end of the day, like, everybody needs to be treated like a team member, a part of the culture. And that also reminds me of a time when I was pregnant, or my husband and I found out we were pregnant, and we had a shared client, older male, and we felt the need to not disclose that we were pregnant, despite like this ongoing contract that we had. Partially because we were so afraid of how we were going to be treated now that we were expecting a kid. And I would maybe not even treated, but maybe be perceived as not as hardworking. I didn't want to be perceived as distracted, uncaring about the work, because none of that was true, right? It just... now we have an additional role, an additional thing to balance. And, looking back, I wish that we were forthcoming about that information, because that would have reduced so much pressure. But, like, no matter how you spin it, maybe it would have been crazy. Who knows? Who knows? I think at the end of the day, like, we need to treat people as the people that they are. That's it. Just like care about the person, care about the human, not get so caught up in the person's life, but just support them wherever they're at. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's like so airy-fairy, but it's important.
No, I think that is really important because I felt that way even just when I was applying to Wistia and I had just gotten married and like, I feel like a lot of people assume if you're getting, the old stigma or old way of doing things was like you get married, you get the house, and you have a baby and things like that. And so even in the back of my head, I was a little self-conscious of like, should I tell them I just got married? Like, if I say that I just got married, are they gonna be thinking, okay, 9 months from now, you're gonna be taking time off? Or, things like that. And so I've even dealt with that, even not even, being pregnant or anything yet. And so I think that's something that a lot of people think about. And especially I even see TikToks about it where it's like hiding my bump on my Zoom review or my Zoom interview because I think that it'll help my chances of getting the job. And so sad because it's just so true. And I understand when there's like software companies or companies in general that are hyper growth, you really need your people there, et cetera. But I have noticed, at least at Wistia, like people, multiple people from my team are, could be expecting and taking time off at the same time. And there's never any sort of like weird energy or like guilt around like, well, could you have planned this better so you guys aren't both at the same time?
Ugh.
Or like, could you like, you know what I mean? Like, or like just weird, like, oh, like it's gonna be a stressful time because they're gonna be out. Like, there's none of that. And it's so nice. Like, it's just like everyone just feels like, nope, we know when everything's gonna happen. Everyone feels really supported. We're gonna get backup support while they're out. Like, we're all so good. We're so excited for you. And like, that's what it should be. And I think like realizing that also gave me another sense of like ease of like, okay, like not only do like once you already are kind of in that scenario, but like once, their policy is like, once you feel comfortable, you can let us know about like if you're expecting a kid and then you can kind of kick off the process from there. There's no like, tell us at this time so we can plan back this many months in advance or anything. So overall, holistically, I feel like Wistia takes a really good and like very human approach to becoming a parent because there are so many nuances in it. And it's like all we can do is be human to each other. Like there's no like playbook. There's no hack. There's no like perfect strategic way to go about being a parent and running a business or being in a business. And so I feel like we all need to be more realistic about that.
Yes, yes. And newsflash for anybody listening who is concerned about hiring a pregnant person or hiring a parent, just hear this. My team is almost entirely comprised of people who have children. And guess what? Company is still running. Company has been great. I've had people take maternity leave. I've had people who've had to step out for indefinite amount of time because they have something that they've got to take care of. No matter what, the company still runs, right? I think it's more about how you're implementing your internal practices to ensure that the company continues to run no matter what happens to who, right? So if you have an issue with somebody stepping out, I think the issue is really within yourself as the leader, right? You have to look internal and say, okay, what stigma am I attaching to this person for having a certain type of life? A, and B, what am I not doing within my business to help make it more sustainable in case somebody were to step out, right? Because if you're totally relying your business on a certain somebody and then they step out and your business implodes, you have a much bigger issue. The issue isn't the person stepping out. The issue is your business leadership and the way that you've structured everything. Period.
Yes. Yes. So snaps for that. Because I feel like it's so true because I think that often it's like as soon as you get hired, it almost feels like it's on you as the employee to have figured that out. Whereas if you took even a day out or an afternoon out, you're like, oh, it feels like the whole company is going to collapse, which like realistically it never will. And if it does, then that's not really your problem. It's kind of like the person who started the business, their problem for sourcing it that way.
100%.
So I think it's a really good point. Kind of a random tangent that just got me thinking on this is like, thinking about parents and parenthood and things like that. Another reason that I know a lot of people, take time out or rethink their careers is for taking care of their parents. And I think
Mhm.
that's another really huge issue with like, work-life balance and even in past roles, people I know have had to take, time away to like care for their parents and then they feel like, all right, this is me, swan diving my career because I am prioritizing the people that matter most to me when, even if it is like the highest point of your career or like the most momentum you've ever had. And people will try to like almost make you feel a little guilty about it of like, oh, are you sure? Like, could you put, find another resource for them or something? But I think that's another part of the balance, like work, business, life piece that doesn't really get talked about much is like not only taking care of parents, but also like when a parent passes or things like that. Like that's, I don't know, like those are all like the human conditions that we can't just ignore.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Preach. It's so important. It's so important. Especially, I think about how and we'll go into a little feminist tangent for a moment because this is important.
I'm always here for it.
I know you are. I know you are. That's why I'm indulging. Studies have shown that women make less than men. Surprise, surprise, right? And the dips tend to happen after having children, after taking care of parents. And why is that? Because women tend to be the ones to take the time off, step away from their careers to do the things, right? Whereas this one blows my mind. Men end up making more money when they become parents.
It
There's
blows my mind.
and I think it's just the way that we view men and women, right? We view women as expected to take on those roles, whereas we view men as being the heroes for stepping up
Yeah.
into those roles, being the babysitter of their own children.
Yep.
So it's just I don't know. That whole thing is mind-boggling, but at the end of the day, if you are a business owner, it's really, really important that you evaluate how you are paying your team across the board. Are you unknowingly, because sometimes people aren't aware of these biases that we have, right? Are you
Totally.
are you unknowingly paying your male team more than your female team? Are you paying them more now? Are you giving them the pay increase now that he's a dad? And are you accidentally reprimanding the pay of your mothers, the mothers who are on your team? Maybe take an honest look at how you are handling that. And pay is just one thing. Time off
Mhm.
is another thing. Benefits are another thing. So I think it's really important to take a good, hard, honest look. If you care about creating a culture that people want to stay in and work for, then these are the hard questions that you have to ask.
Yeah,
Period.
definitely.
Period. That also reminds me, I want to tell a quick story. So I think I was like 20, 23, 24. I was going on my first ever international vacation with my boyfriend at the
Nice.
time. And it was a big family vacation. I had asked my boss 6 months in advance if I could take the time off. And it really wasn't me asking her. It was me giving her the grace and telling her like, hey, in 6 months, I'm going to be taking this vacation. Just a heads up. And the instant response was no. Right.
What?
Right. No.
Like you can't plan 6 months ahead of time?
And so like I bring this up because we were just talking like if somebody is that pivotal to your business and they can't step out, there's an issue. That is a highlight right there. I mean, if she like wasn't able to do that 6 months in advance, plan that far ahead, that's bananas. That is absolutely bananas. So that's just like one other way that we can support our team, right? Is allowing them the time off just to recharge. Even if they don't have anything important to do, like taking care of family members. Maybe people just need to relax. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we already spend like 80% of our lives working or some crazy statistic like that. It's like we should be able to enjoy that other 20, 30% and maybe even make it a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, I do want to dive into your freelance journey just a little bit. So, it sounds like wrapping your arms around the money of it was daunting, understandably so. How were you able to manage it over that time? Because it sounds like you were running that freelance side hustle or business for what, a year or so? Yeah.
Yeah, about a year.
Yeah. What did that money management look like by the end of it for you?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I was really disorganized. I was taking invoices through PayPal and just doing that because it was like easiest, fastest way to like set things up, or like Venmo or whatever. And then after the first couple things, once I like started landing like a retainer client, I was like, okay, like I need to get like a legitimate like invoicing system set up. And so that's where I was like, all right, like how do I become a business? And so I actually used a platform called Zen Business, and they helped me kind of just set up all of the LLC frameworks, or like, the paperwork and all of that. And it's like a very easy kind of software that just guides you through starting an LLC or whatever you need to do. And so that was one thing that really helped me make moves on it, because I was talking to an ex-colleague slash friend about when I was like, yeah, I think I might start this LLC. Like I'm getting all this, like, I'm getting way more traction with this freelance work than I am trying to apply to these job listings where I hear nothing back after like, so many applications. And so my colleague friend told me about Zendesk, which is the one thing that I think really, really helped me out. And then once I got all of that paperwork sorted out, I went to Bank of America and I was like, all right, I want to open a business bank account. And I sat down with a very nice woman, and she kind of like set me up with everything and like a business credit card, and like walked me through. And I asked all of the dumb questions of like, okay, like why do I need a savings and a business like checking account? And why would I also want like why would I want like a business credit card? Like how can I make sure my business expenses, I'm able to write them off easily? And I think for me, like separating my like business money into a separate bank account really helped me stay on top of all of my taxes and everything ahead of time. And I decided to do like an account with ADP, which is like, like a payment or payroll software, where I could basically, I would get paid into my business bank account through like an invoice or whatever. And then from there, I would use ADP to like pay myself as an employee. And so I would take the taxes out of it before it would go into my personal bank account. And so that made me feel a lot more confident that I was, one, charging enough so that way, the taxes that were getting taken out of it were like still leaving me with enough money to support myself and continue on. So it was keeping me in check with like, are my prices where they should be? And then also it just made sure that at the end, when I did do my taxes, it was so much easier to collect all of the information since it was in this separate bank account of like, oh, all of my business expenses are all on this card. So I can just export that as a sheet, give that to my like TurboTax person, and then they can kind of sort it all out. And then that's another thing I did is I used TurboTax to do my taxes with like a live person. And so because I had never done small business taxes before ever, and also had some what was it? Like, the company was kind of paying us after we got laid off. So some of those payments, and I had a lot of different kind of incomes kind of coming from different places. So that was also really helpful. So my advice would really be to look for like systems and people that you can ask really dumb questions to. And I feel like you always feel like it is going to be a lot harder than it really is. Because now that I think about it, I'm like, that whole process really wasn't that hard, but it is really confusing to know how to navigate it at first. And so I, even before I went into using Zendesk, I would ask ChatGPT, like, so like, how does someone set up an LLC? Like, what forms would I need? Like, are there services that could help me do this? Or how, like, where else can I learn more about why I should have a separate bank account? Or like, what do I do with my PayPal invoices at the end of the tax season? Like, things like that. Obviously, you always have to like double check those things, but I like using ChatGPT as a way to like ask my dumb questions to then help me think of smarter ways to ask the question. So that way it gets me to the right resource one way or another.
That is the coolest advice, GPT, for getting those initial like questions out. When I started my business, there was no ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I barely had a smartphone at that point. Yeah, that was a whole thing. Separating out your funds, that's also really important. I commingled my funds for the longest, And the bookkeeping was so much more intense than it had to be. All I had to do was like
Yes.
open up a business bank account. I don't know why I was so stubborn on doing that. But anyway, after I
Because
ended up.
going to the bank is so annoying. It's like they're open for like 2 hours out of the day, and it's like,
True.
it's ridiculous.
It's so true. And opening, and I think what it was too is that opening a business bank account, usually they almost always charge a fee unless you have a certain minimum. And that was just annoying to me. Like I didn't want to have to worry about or to think about it's just more moving parts, But eventually like open up the business bank account and it's like kicking myself for spending all of the extra hours on bookkeeping when I didn't have to. You also mentioned forming as an LLC. It sounds like because you were doing payroll and they were taking taxes out ahead of time, were you an S corp as well? Did you elect as an S corp or were you just doing?
No, it was just straight up LLC with payroll. Yeah, with like me as a solo employee.
Okay.
I try to keep it as like simple as possible. And it was like every time I got a call with like whether it was a bank person or a tax person, it was just like, I made this money by doing this thing. How do I do it without going to jail?
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I asked that question because obviously I am not a CPA. Ask someone who is much smarter than me at tax law and all that. But if you elect as an S corp, you have the opportunity of using you have to use payroll, but you have the opportunity of not having to pay as much freelance, what is it called? A self-employed tax. So your tax liability is actually a lot lower if you're an S corp. Now the caveat is, but the caveat is that you do have to go through payroll, which some people don't want to incur that extra expense and that extra step. And you want to elect as an S corp only after you're making a certain income. Otherwise, it just doesn't really make sense and you don't really get the benefit of it. So that's just like a little like fun fact for anybody who's like thinking about forming their business and how to form it. That would be a question to bring to a CPA or maybe ChatGPT. Although I think I'd prefer a real human who has some.
Yeah, I'd go to a real human for that one.
Yeah, I'd go to a real human. But ask them like, hey, like how should I form my business? This is what things are currently looking like. This is where I predict to go in the future. And here's the thing: if you ask somebody a quote unquote dumb question and they respond with a snarky answer, they're probably not somebody who you want on your team. That would be a good filter, right? If they respond with kindness and they walk you through, they hold your hand, keep them. They're a gem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And people want to help you a lot more than you think. Like I remember the service that I use, ADP, for the payroll. Some of it was a little confusing because I was like, I've never used a software like this before.
Yeah.
And they had people constantly like checking in on me. I mean, at one point it was a little annoying. I was like, stop emailing me. But it was like they were checking in to be like, hey, like, because, sometimes I'd run payroll like, once a month. Sometimes it's like twice a month, kind of depending on like the flow of projects and work that I had coming in. And so they were checking in to be like, oh, like, do you need help with anything? And it was just like so nice because I could, again, ask them really dumb questions. And they were like, no, that's actually a really good question. And then be able to like handhold me through it in a way. And so it was kind of nice to also, even though at some points it did feel like an extra hoop to go through for the payroll, it did end up giving me, because I was just like a solo business person just thinking this stuff on my own, it gave me like a sounding board, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
So it's like it had its perks and its annoyances, but I overall am happy because it did make my tax season a lot easier for me.
Oh yeah, I made the mistake of not. So I didn't elect as an S corp. I didn't use payroll, so I didn't have my taxes set aside, and so I made that age old mistake that a lot of freelancers make, and even new business owners make, where I wasn't prepared for the upcoming tax liability bill, and so that is another piece of advice. Like if you don't go through payroll and have that tax money accounted for, make sure you have that savings account, which you pretend doesn't even exist, that you put money into every month or every couple weeks, however often you are collecting on your invoices, and make sure that your tax liability is off to the side. So do a little research. You can ask ChatGPT this, what's my probable tax bracket. Again, a CPA would probably be better, but yeah, make sure you're prepared for that. Have that money set aside. So Meg, where can people find you? You are currently working at Wistia. Are you still doing any like stuff on the side, or no? Is that just completely off?
So I have done a couple of projects just for like recurring. Like I have like an author who I've like worked on his personal brand a few times, so I like updated a template for him or things like that. But I've generally just kind of wound down my freelance design, video marketing business for now. You can go see my work at creativeblob.com. That's the business website. And so I kind of have it just like open for like, you know, later in life, but I'm not taking projects right now. But you can find me over on LinkedIn. I'm sure you'll share my links. Or on Instagram, I post a lot of my roller skating stuff there. Or really on Substack is where you'll probably get the most me, I would say, is once a month I send out one of those voicemail newsletters that can go to your inbox, or you can just find it online, and that's where I'll be.
That sounds so cool. I will definitely link everything in the show notes. Meg, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today. I am so excited for how this is going to inspire employers in taking care of their team and new freelancers, business owners who are looking to start their own thing. So yeah, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you for joining us on Bringing Up Business. If you could, please take a moment to subscribe to and rate the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at bub.podcast. That's BUB.podcast. Finally, we'd love to get your feedback. If you have a comment or a guest idea, please let us know on our website, bringingupbusiness.com. Until next time, thanks for joining us. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Say bye-bye. See you later.
Bye-bye. See you later.
This recording is for informational purposes only and should not be considered business advice. Opinions expressed are as of the date of recording and are subject to change without notice. The views and opinions of guests on this program are not necessarily those of Umari Digital and its affiliates, which together we refer to as Umari Digital. Umari Digital is not affiliated with guests or their business affiliates unless otherwise stated. Umari Digital does not guarantee the accuracy or the completeness of the data presented herein. This recording is for informational purposes only, and the information, data, analysis, or opinion it includes, or their use, should not be considered business, financial, or legal advice. Umari Digital shall not be responsible for any decisions, damages, or other losses resulting from or related to the information, data, analysis, or opinions, or their use. All business decisions are subject to risk, including possible loss of capital. Individuals should seriously consider if a decision is suitable for them by referencing their own financial position. Thank you.